Welcome to an all-new episode of Colorful Lives presented by State Farm. This season, we're focusing on the things that we wish we knew before major life events. In this week's episode, we're going to dig into the things that you should know before renovating your home.
So, what does home mean to you guys? I'm curious.
Ooh. You know, I travel a lot, so I used to always joke that home is where the Wi-Fi connects automatically. But now that I'm trying to be home more, I think it really just, for me, home is about peace of mind. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, I've worked really hard to live where I want to live. I obviously, I rent, I don't own. But I really like my apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of what living in my apartment means to me. You know, I'm like, I love it. And so I want it to be a place, especially living in New York. My dream of home is that anytime I open my door, that's the only place I want to be right now.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Yeah, it's like my safe space. And the thing about my house is, and I've owned my house now it'll be 6 years next year. So in April. So it was a great investment because home to me is also, I hope this is appreciating in value because I think about those things all the time.
I hope this is making me money.
Yeah, I do. And it's also, like, when I come home, I can't stand for my house to be a mess, especially because I have long days and I also travel a lot. So it really bothers me. Like, I can't even get in my bed if there's, like, messes everywhere. So I always have to at least straighten up a little bit before I can even relax.
So you don't just, I'm going to get to it the next day. I'm not going to get to it.
No, never.
It's hard for me to do that.
Especially when you go on a trip, I always make sure that my house is tip-top shape before I leave.
And I only clean up before I leave because I know I'm not going to want to when I get home.
Yeah.
So
it's also a place for me where there's never any food in the fridge, with lots of leftover takeout cartons. But in my head, what my home I would like it to be is a place where I actually go home and cook and relax. I'm just not there enough, and I would love to be there more.
Yeah, and I know home for me is interesting because I think I shared before I'm a military brat, and so when you're a military kid, you're so used to picking up and moving around, and I replicated that for so much of my adult life. I think at one point I lived in 5 different cities in a 3-year time span.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That would drive me crazy.
That's me.
Yeah. So I was moving around a lot, but now I don't know. I think because I'm in that weird transition phase of growing up in the South, you buy your house, so I'm the one in my family and everybody's looking at me like, why are you wasting money by renting? But I just haven't found a good deal yet that I'm ready that I love. And I know, Angie, you always say this doesn't have to be your forever home. This is your starter home.
She just said that to me before we started today.
No, I don't. But that's interesting. I like home is where the Wi-Fi connects automatically, but that's a lot of places for me. That's my co-working space. That's definitely not home.
It's my job.
But I think also as it's probably for us at least, it's we're getting older, we're getting more settled in all these other areas of life. And so having a place that's just consistent, that you can go to all the time, where you can have peace of mind, because I think also a lot about the fact that I'm just throwing money away in rent. But I think that doesn't mean that I'm not proud of the ownership of my rental space, right? I was it's about that kind of pride. And I think that it also represents a kind of taking care of yourself, and I'm okay, I was work is going well. I've figured that out over the years. Everything else is going well. I should invest deeply in how the comfort that I have at home.
Well, I'm excited to look for houses with you.
Listen.
And I definitely sent her listings.
Y'all gotta FaceTime me. FaceTime me in.
Angela sent me a link and she was my
friend is selling a place. And I do think a lot of times the way that we'll get something is by relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Getting things that aren't even
on the market.
That everyone else isn't.
So it's a matter of talking to people, letting people know I'm looking for a home and putting the word out there. Yeah. I think that's important. And I always say this too, looking even if you're not ready to buy yet, because it is going to take a while to find some place that you think is great. And maybe something will come up that you'll make it happen because it's so amazing that why would I wait on this? I have to figure it out. Sometimes the way we move best is when our back is against the wall and we have to figure it out.
I'm really gonna take that to heart, what you're saying about looking even if you're not ready, because I think that in my head, a big block for me is all my paperwork is not together, all my money is not together, it's so much stress. And also I hear people say starter home all the time, and I think I understand what that means, but I think it's also such a deeply personal relationship, because for me, I support my family a lot. And so having my cash tied into a big investment is something that it's a little bit scary. But also I moved a lot as a kid. And so the idea of just like, I own this ginormous thing and now it means that I'm here. I think that I have a lot of emotional work to do.
I think I do
about
too, yeah.
untangling what home ownership means versus my own feelings about it.
Well, my realtor helped me a lot. And your first home doesn't have to be your dream home, as I've told you guys. And I will say that, but I learned that from my real estate
be walking
agent.
through a home. Doesn't have to be my dream home. Doesn't have to be my dream home.
It doesn't.
I'm going to be chanting that to myself.
But it also can be, like, when I bought my house, my realtor said that to me because I was looking at properties and I was like, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. And she said, Angela, this is your first home. Not the home that you have to have for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But this is your first home. And she also said you'll have a feeling when you find a place that you really like, you'll feel like it feels good when you come in. And if you don't feel that, then don't do it. So that's why the phrase starter home does exist for a reason. And I looked at it like this because I'm also really cautious with my money. When I bought my house, it's a 2-family house. So it's also income coming in.
Yeah.
So it's not just, okay, I'm paying this home mortgage by myself. My mortgage is way less than what my rent would be. And so I also have that
I'm
income
sweating.
on top of that. And then I also thought to myself, right, because it's my space that I live in is a duplex. So I had 3 bedrooms. I turned one into a closet. But if things didn't go well, I could also get a roommate and rent out a room and then think of that as another source of income where really if I wanted to, a roommate and my tenant could pay for the whole entire mortgage and I wouldn't have to pay anything.
Well, that thing too that you're saying about relationships and even, like you sending me that text being like, hey, my friend has this open. I feel like it makes me a little braver because my entire experience of what home ownership can be, if I'm really honest, is from watching home improvement television where but they make it seem really easy, right? Like, oh, you flip a house and then you make so much money on it or here's how the process works. And so I think that like talking to the people in your life really and being like, oh, like, actually that's television and this is real life. Because like one thing that you were really good about explaining to me about, like all of the money that you need to get together is that there are all these unexpected costs. Like I didn't know about closing costs. I like didn't know about, like there's so many hidden costs.
PMI that if you don't put down
enough money
a certain amount of money, then you might have to pay mortgage insurance. Yeah.
There's, if you have any renovations that you want to do before you move into the space or anything of that nature.
You have to have money in the bank also. So after you close, they wouldn't see that you have a certain
So you mean
amount
you
of
can't
money.
zero out your account?
No, you can't.
No.
Because I definitely did that when I bought my house and I was like, Dad, I need to borrow $30,000. I'll pay you right back.
I'll pay you right back.
I will.
$30,000.
Yeah. But he had it saved up. He gave it to me and I did give it back within a month. Actually, I gave back 24. I was like, I'm going to keep 6 and then pay that back later.
Yeah. I like to, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And that's the thing as a homeowner, you never know what's going to happen. And then I know your starter home isn't your forever home, but you might stay in there a little longer and you might want to make renovations or change the decor up and so forth. And that's the whole thing in itself is moving in and now you have to furnish this space.
Yes,
and so it's not just about I'm getting in here. Now I need couches, I need beds, I need dressers. I need to actually make it look like someone lives here.
But you don't have to get all that right away.
You don't. But I just hate going to houses and I'm like, you probably could have just waited because
I think it's okay
a teenage boy's room
to not have all that right away. Because first of all, wherever you're at, you probably have some furniture you'll keep anyway, right? So you'll keep
Unless
that.
It's,
I already have my bedroom furniture.
That doesn't move with you. You got to start over with that.
But certain things I already had, and I also think this was good too, right? In my apartment before I bought my house, I did buy certain pieces that I knew I would keep.
Yeah.
So when I was ready to buy a house, I had a brand new dresser that I hadn't had for that long. I had nightstands. I was like, I know I'm going to keep this when I move. I bought a new couch. So all of those things came with me.
I think that's important too, to be buying your pieces ahead of time. Like buying these pieces that will last and are good investments.
Right.
So that when you
there's
are
a
ready to
sale.
move into your home, you actually have things that you can take with you.
Well, can I ask you guys a question though? As someone who I feel like you're pretty maybe like settled where you're living.
No,
I feel
I'm not settled.
Well, okay, then let's talk about it. But like, I think that for me, and also like you don't have to I don't have to live in New York. I just live in New York right now. But one of the big blocks that I have also in home buying is, do I just want to be, do I want to be here? And so how much does like neighborhood matter? How much does location matter? And how much, and how do you make a criteria for yourself of this is, forget the money. It's like emotionally, like I will be happy like doing this. Did you have a system for where you decided that you were going to buy in the neighborhood that you bought in?
Well, first of all, fortunately for me, like I bought in Brooklyn and I'm from Brooklyn, so I can see all the changes that's happening in the neighborhood. And so that's important too. Like location is extremely important because that can dictate whether or not the value of your house is going to go up or down. And I think it's always good to look at neighborhoods that are up and coming. When you can see restaurants coming into the neighborhood, you know they're about to build this restaurant move from, one neighborhood to another. Brooklyn's a really unique market because there's neighborhoods that people can't afford to live here, so now they're moving here. Well, now this is too expensive, so now people are moving here. Yeah. So you just have to pay attention to where those deals are coming, where are those new buildings coming in, where are those new businesses coming, and that's how you know when something's a good situation. I did that in Detroit. With the houses I bought in Detroit, I looked at where are people moving to and where are they actually investing in the city, into what neighborhoods, and I went to Boston Edison, and I flipped a home there, and it was a great situation for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I know in LA, the thing about LA is just really interesting. And, I like to live in, I guess you consider them historically Black communities and so forth. And so right now I live in Inglewood, and I love Inglewood. I lived in Bed-Stuy before I left New York. And so I wanted to find something as similar to that as possible. But one thing I can say about the housing stock here in LA here in New York is it makes sense. If you spend $800,000 for a property here, or $1 million, most likely it's going to be a multifamily unit. Yeah. In LA, there are like $1 million 2-bedroom houses that have not been renovated since the 1960s. I'm not doing that. I'm just not. So that's why I'm not settled in LA, because I just can't wrap my head around that. And so, but community is really important. Right. If I had my dream home in Los Angeles, it would be in the Windsor Hills, Baldwin Hills, Ladera Park, like Ladera. Heights. Yes, Ladera Heights. I go to the park, I go to Ladera Park, but Ladera Heights area, because there's just something about walking out and feeling like, oh, that could be my uncle.
Black Beverly Hills.
Yeah, like the block parties are amazing, and it's just, it's beautiful. But I think that's the beautiful thing about home.
And you have a child too, so I'm sure you think also about school.
Well, yeah, but he's going to be homeschooled.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, so forget that.
Breaking news.
He's going to be homeschooled, but it is also the kids that he's playing with in the neighborhood and so forth, and the families that we interact with, and what kind of community and tribe we're building around us. So that is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think my takeaway from this conversation is that I really need to get serious about making my priorities. It's like, what is the system that I have for myself? And
do your research. That's all. That's all I'm saying is like, get prepared now. So when it's time, because it is a huge purchase. And so when it's time for you to really do it, you feel educated on it so that it's just easier for you. You know how much you're pre-qualified for, you know how much you can afford, you know what your mortgage payments could be.
Which I did all of that last season, right?
Yeah,
because
you did.
You're like, do it. And now I'm like, I have to take the next leap.
I think you should write your non-negotiables too, Amina. I think it's important to say these things are what are most important to me when it comes into what community I live in, what kind of house I live in, et cetera. And then, that way you have something to measure against when you're looking at something. So you can say, you know what, my non-negotiables are not met here, so this isn't the right unit for me, versus this is something that I could give on. Maybe community isn't important to you, but maybe, maybe it's a multifamily unit. Maybe there's, accessibility. Maybe there's a backyard or some green space that comes along the property. So you just have to write out your non-negotiables.
And get yourself a great real estate agent. And I'll hook you up. I love my realtor, but somebody that you can trust that also knows what you're looking for, so you don't waste your time at looking at things that you wouldn't even consider.
I love that you're going to hold my hand through this whole process. I'm going to dedicate my housewarming to you.
This is a house dedication /
thank you, Angela Yee. You helped me get through all of my stuff, and now I own a home.
And I'm just going to be back here eating the cheese. This is nice.
For the second half of this week's episode, we're talking to Rashida Gray, the founder of Gray Space Interior Design, based out of Philadelphia. Hey, Rashida.
Hey, how are you?
She's an award-winning interior decorator who's been on HGTV, Good Day Philadelphia, and Architectural Digest. Woo. She's also received the Best of House Award for every year that she's been in the business.
Okay.
Hey, now, give it up every year.
Love that.
That's like my dream job. So welcome, Rashida. And tell us a little bit about your journey and how you became an interior designer.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with each of you. So I've been a designer for almost 4 years. My firm is Gray Space Interior Design. We specialize in mostly residential and then small commercial interiors. So we operate operate mostly out of Philadelphia, but we also do some online-based services as well for anyone who might not be local to the Philadelphia area. And Philadelphia spans all the way to Jersey and Delaware and beyond. So,
So you know, we reach out.
Like we do the
We're all
entire
over.
Eastern Seaboard.
There you go. That's a better way to say it. But I haven't always been an interior designer.
Oh, wow.
So this is a second career for me. I started in marketing for over 15 years and found that design was my passion and pursued it and just went to full-time in the business a few months ago. So it's been a great journey.
So do people always come to your house and say, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
All
you
the
should
time.
do this for a living"?
And it didn't click for me initially. So I've always been like into painting my apartments and like, whatever design I can do. And as a kid, I did it all the time. And it just never seemed like a career until I think I heard someone mention earlier, like the home channel network, shopping networks,
Like,
and that
people
kind of
really
thing.
do this.
You're like, oh, there's someone there are interior designers. So it was an initial career choice, but then it clicked. And people always comment about how my home looks and that kind of thing.
Some people think it's really expensive to get an interior designer to come in and work with you. So if somebody's on a budget, what are some tips that you can give them?
Yeah. A couple things. One, it is an investment. I always say that. Like, it's your home and you want to make sure that you're putting pride and quality into it.
So true.
Yeah. But I think a lot of designers will say that the best kind of design is not just expensive, but like a good mix of high, low, things that you value that don't cost a ton of money. So you can always take that approach. And then also, we offer services like eDesign, which is like an online design option.
Oh, cool.
So if you don't want to spend a full design budget, you can always opt for an eDesign option that's a little less expensive.
And I'm sure you get great deals too. So you probably know where you can go to get stuff, and it actually might save people money.
Right. That's a good thing about designers, working with a designer, because we often get wholesale pricing on furniture and things like that.
It evens out.
Yeah. So we like to share those kinds of discounts and savings with our clients. So it's very helpful when working with a designer.
So do you have to, I'm such a noob at this. So, because my feeling is that if you're going to hire an interior designer, you have to have a whole house that you're doing. But do people just come to you and they're like, I just want to do my bathroom or my bedroom or the
kitchen.
What's the most
Or just
popular
my
room?
office,
Yeah.
right.
Is there like a popular
All the
room that people
time.
like to just do one thing?
I would say it's kind of split between living rooms because, it's the first thing that everyone sees when they walk in. And then bedrooms is another one that's really popular. So I think the reason that those two are popular is, of course, someone walks into your home, living room is the first thing they see, but the bedroom
use it
is
every
kind of
day.
like your peace, like
It
your
is. Where you
place
wake
where
up.
you retreat. So I always say it's an investment, but it's also a way to kind of treat yourself to hire a designer. So if you do your bedroom, it's kind of like my place, my solitude. So yeah, that's these
Not to like
pieces.
talk you out of business, but if somebody is like me and they're like, okay, I don't quite have the, like you price it out and you don't quite have the budget for it. I feel that, there's a lot of DIY stuff that you can find on social media. I have so many boards on Instagram and Pinterest and stuff like that. Is there something that you would tell people like that's an easy thing that you can do yourself, for example?
Yeah, So I would say artwork can be really expensive when doing a design project. And there's so many different options out there now with the internet. So you could do something as simple as using fabric and putting that into a frame, a picture frame. And that now becomes a piece of artwork. I've seen folks who maybe, you have a mother your mom may have a scarf or something or a dress that she wore that's been handed down. You can frame that. And so now it's like a part of your home and
it
your
has a story. Yes.
And it's inexpensive.
I always hear that the kitchen is one of the most important places in a home if you're talking about adding value to a home. So what are some spaces that really add value if you want to increase that? Maybe one day you might want to sell it or, just to even get an appraisal and have it appraised higher. What are some suggestions for renovating like the kitchen? And is that the most valuable space to actually renovate?
Yes. You're right on with the kitchen. Kitchen and baths sell homes. And I think it's because...
I feel like that's the thing I look at. the kitchen and bath.
all the time. And because you spend a lot of time in the kitchen now, and especially with our homes now, the floor plans are more open. So kitchens are often a part of the living space as opposed to something in the back corner of the home. So kitchens and bathrooms sell homes. I would always suggest to my clients, if they're thinking about moving in a few years and they want to renovate, that's where you want to put your money. Usually you get almost 100% return on both of those spaces, kitchens and baths.
Wow.
And then when renovating and you're thinking about selling, you want to kind of stick to neutral bases so that it's more appealing to a wide range of buyers. But yeah, kitchens and baths for sure. Yeah.
Ooh. Tanya, when you were doing your son's nursery, what were your considerations for how you were decorating that space?
Pinterest. I use a Pinterest board.
Yes.
So is a wide variety of different themes. But in his room, I didn't want it to be too childish, but I also wanted to be somewhat neutral. So there were just certain pieces that actually might be in an older child's room that are in his room, so that as he grows, and it's so funny, we really invested in his dresser. I really was intentional about having mid-century modern furniture in his room. So his dresser is a really, really nice dresser, and it's going to grow with him.
Good.
And his rocking chair.
Take it to
He has no
college.
choice.
This dresser is stuck with you. And his rocking chair is something that we could take out of his room and put in other areas of our house after he decides he doesn't need to be rocked to sleep anymore.
So you wanted that to like blend into your decor, because I always feel that sometimes where I'm like, they don't make baby appropriate stuff for the rest of your house. You
I
know?
didn't want it to be. I'm not a characters person. Even as a kid, I didn't like cartoon characters and stuff like that.
So he's not going to like them because
he has no choice.
a lot of times people move into places just temporarily. It's not your forever home, as we've been talking about. So how do you make a temporary living space feel like home, even if it's just for a little bit of time?
We were just talking about that, Amina, making an apartment feel like
right.
home.
A lot of people say, I'm not going to work with a designer yet because I'm not going to stay here long, or it's just an apartment or whatever. And my response to that is, if you're paying for somewhere to live, you want to make it very homey and feel as if you can stay there for a while. And I like to say you design with things that you can take with you.
Right.
So again, invested in those solid pieces like a sofa, like a dresser that you can take with you. But another idea is to make it home in like a very quick and inexpensive way with pictures of family and friends throughout the home. Gallery walls are all the rage now. Everyone loves a good gallery wall where you have a series of pictures on a wall and then you intertwine. You might intertwine like, a piece of artwork or something like that to kind of make a story around that gallery wall. So pictures, heirlooms from family, there's peel and stick wallpaper. So if you can't paint, you can use wallpaper and rip it off when you're done. Command strips are always good because you can hang with those and not damage walls. So I would say make it home as much as possible by bringing in things that remind you of family and friends.
I have a question. So, I found that picture frames were a lot more expensive than I realized they were. So do you have a favorite tip as far as saving on picture frames? Sometimes, the artwork, sometimes the framing, you're like,
it's so
what?
expensive.
I took something. I took something to get framed, and I just didn't know. I had to take it home with me. I'm sorry. I didn't know I couldn't come into the store because nobody told me.
When they show me they have to show you those different price points of the frames, and you're like, wait a minute.
I would say you, of course, could do it yourself, but there's retailers that have like coupons and things go on sale.
Right.
So I always try to
There's
get
some
like
startups that do
50% off.
framing. There's some framing startups.
And I would say, just try to, of course, the bigger the frame is, the more expensive it is. So if you can compile several smaller versions of it, that might save some money as well.
And it's all different kinds of glass too. Like there's the one that doesn't reflect, and it's so expensive.
Can you tell we're about to start a framing business?
Right. Here's something that's so crazy. I just got a bunch of things framed, and the framer is actually trying to sell her business. She's like, if you know anybody that wants to buy a frame,
Angela Yee.
Shmoney team business, Shmoney framing.
Thank you, State Farm, for being for letting us start a business. I have a question though for you, because I'm a renter, and a lot of especially in New York, a lot of apartments, you want to change so many things.
Yeah.
And you obviously have to get permission from your landlord. Sometimes I don't. I'm like, it's better to ask for forgiveness and to, beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. But I was just wondering, if you could, what are really easy upgrades that you can make if you're a renter that's not something that's permanent, on the wall that you can change. I traditionally have changed a lot of the cabinets of my place, but that's also an investment,
And then they get to keep it.
And then they get to to keep it, but I'm just wondering if there's just a way to like spruce up your space in a way that you can do that.
Paint. I always say paint is the least expensive, biggest change that you can make in a home. A couple of tips with paint though, because it can get tricky. So before I became a designer, I probably painted one of my kitchens like 3 times because I was like, this isn't the right color. So a couple of tips. One is always test out the color, like no matter what. So test it and leave it on the wall for like morning, day, and night so you can see how the light looks.
But do you have to prime it when you're testing it also?
If your walls are dark, yes. But if you have white walls, you can just paint right on top of it. Another tip, especially for New York and Philly and areas where the cities are older, you have will flat paint.
That shiny paint.
Yes, the shiny paint will bounce off of everything.
I do not like shiny paint anyway.
And the light, you will see all the cracks and nail pops and everything else that's involved. So flat paint, to me, it's visually soothing too. Flat paint
like
is.
shiny walls.
And some people are like, well, you can't white flat paint. Well, if you get a good brand, usually, regular, not a high-end brand, but a nice brand will be helpful.
I'm a fan of an accent wall also.
Yes. I love accent walls. Yeah. Yes. And I do that a lot with wallpaper. So wallpaper is making it has made a comeback. Yeah. It's like legit. Everyone uses it and it's a good way. You can do it on an accent wall. You can do it on the ceiling. You can do it around the entire room. Again, peel and stick for apartments and that kind of thing.
Right. Did they make it in the sheet sizes? So peel and stick work.
It's like in a roll. So it covers like 50 square feet per roll, and you can peel it and just put it on, use a squeegee. I've wallpapered and I'm not like super handy, so yeah.
You're making me feel hopeful.
My contractor handles all of those things, but it's not too bad to do it yourself.
Yeah, and I love when people have wallpaper in the bathroom. Like
that's awesome.
Just like the half bathrooms, I think it looks really nice.
It's a good way to do something that's that bold. Like you can use a graphic print, like big flowers or like birds on wallpaper and bold colors, and it's just a small space, so it doesn't make a big impact.
So I have a question. What is the first thing you set up when you go into a new space? I mean, you have your wallpaper or you have your paint and everything. What's the first thing that you're like, okay, we need this next? Is it lighting? Is it outlets? What is it?
Okay, I'll tell you what I do last. I do paint last. I always do paint last.
Okay, that's counterintuitive.
After we know what the plan is, then I select a paint color. So with design, I always do design plans, and that helps. I would suggest that for the listeners too, to start with the plan, like everything that you like, throw it on a PowerPoint, throw it on like a mood board or something like that, so you can see how it all works together. But paint is last because there's a trillion paint colors, and you can combine any color to get a color if you don't see it. But one of the first things I would say, something that you use most would be the sofa or seating. You want to make the space as comfortable for you as possible. So if it's a bedroom, the bed. And if it's a living room, seating first, because that's really important.
I've always done the reverse.
Yeah.
I pick my furniture out after the walls are painted.
You're like, this has to match the walls.
Yeah.
Because then you're like trying to make sure your furniture matches
It's
your
true
paint.
though. Then I can't fall in love with the couch because it doesn't match the paint. And
Unless you do all neutral walls, right? And you know you're
But some of the gray, you can have a gray that looks red or gray that looks blue.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Right.
That's true.
Now, for people who are looking for an interior designer, what are some ways they can get matched up with somebody good? What kind of questions should you be asking? How would you recommend somebody select an interior designer?
A lot of people don't realize is like personality matches. Yeah. You spend a lot of time with a designer or a contractor. I mean, some of my projects go on for 1.5 years, 2 years. Wow. And so it's like a relationship. I'm like, listen, we go together now and I need to, so just make sure that you have a good personality match with a designer. And then the reviews, and then just get a good idea of budget.
Right.
So a designer should be able to tell you, this is what I think you'll need to do your project the way that you want to.
And would that include also the designer fee whenever you give that budget? Okay, that's helpful to know. Well, I think also those relationships go both ways.
Yeah.
If, what's the best thing that somebody can do to be a good client to a designer? Like, should you have a mood board? Should you, like, how do you even, develop that vocabulary to say, like, what do I want? What do I need? And how do we set expectations so that it works well together?
Right. I love when I go to a consultation, that's the first time I meet the client and they have a Pinterest board. I'm like, yes, you did your homework. Because it's so difficult when someone doesn't really know what they want. And we have tricks on how to figure out what they like. Like, there will be times we were talking about closets that I will go into a potential client's closet to see what colors are there, what they wear, what patterns, because that can translate into their home as well. So if you don't have a Pinterest board or a house board or anything like that, that's fine, but that's super helpful. And then also I would say a good idea on budget, a realistic timeline, and then just the ability to trust the process and trust the designer. We're typically creative people, and so we like to kind of flow. And if you are reaching out to that person because of the internet, you've already done your research, and you're like, okay, I like what they do. So you just have to trust the process.
Sometimes people are probably like, oh, just whatever you decide to do. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Right. But then you start doing stuff,
And they're like, I don't like that.
Oh, everybody knows what they don't like.
Yes,
They don't know what they
That's
do
true.
like.
And that might be important to have a good understanding as a client of what you don't
That's
like or
very
what you don't
true.
want in your house.
We even ask things like before meeting with the client about like your ideal vacation spot. And like, we'll figure out their design style and, what function you need in the space. So as designers, we do a little digging too before meeting with the client.
One thing that meant a lot to me in my house was lighting, like as far as I have chandeliers everywhere.
Yeah.
Like above the dining
In
room
your
table.
closet.
Yes.
But I love that. Like I love that I think the lights just really define the character of the room too.
Right. Yeah, there's multiple types of lighting. You always have your ambiance lighting, which is your overhead lighting. And then you have task lighting that's like a lamp on a table or at a desk.
Task lighting.
I didn't even realize it's a light.
Your task.
I didn't realize. And I'm like, babe, turn on the task light, please.
Now I know. Everything has a word.
It's so important.
No, the task light.
And even like light bulbs and the way that they give out certain colors. So there's like soft white, which really is a yellow colored light
hate
bulb.
yellow light.
Yes, me too.
I like bright white.
You
light
like
in my
daylight
spaces.
colored
I
looking
know.
lighting, which has a blue
You can buy
undertone
that.
to it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like only purchase those light bulbs in my house now.
It's
I
super
do not like
important.
yellow
Lighting
light.
will make or break a room.
And
I
if
have
you
a pink
Instagram-
light that I like.
Red light special,
It's
you like
very,
also.
It's just like very smooth. I'm just saying.
I feel like if you Instagram in your house or if you're doing flat lays and stuff like that in your house, you need that white light. You don't want to
Absolutely.
go outside.
You do. You
Like
need
in my dining room, I have the yellow sort of light because that's like a mood setting space.
Yeah.
But like in my office, I have the brighter light.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to know. I like that it's a collaborative process.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And you probably learn a lot about yourself while you're doing that.
Yep. Yeah. We always it's important, like as designers, it's important to get to know the client because it's their home and they're going to be there for a while. So you want them to feel like it's their home. You just help to execute that vision.
Right. I'm sure you get a lot of referrals from people coming to someone's house and saying, I love what you did with the place.
Right.
Oh, well, let me put you on.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best way to
I
do
know
it.
someone.
Right. Because you've already built trust with that person.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but like if a friend tells me about something, I'm like, all right, I'm more willing to try it than, just, a random person on Instagram or something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like you're making me feel very calm about this.
I'm ready to go get to work.
the
I'm
whole
ready to do
thing.
some design work.
I know. So let's do our money meditation together.
Yes.
So, we're all going to center ourselves and just take some deep breaths. And if you're at home, I suggest you do the same thing. And for today's money meditation, we're going to build our dream homes. So take a moment to imagine where your home is. Is it a bungalow by the beach? Is it a penthouse that's overlooking a downtown? Is it a farmhouse on a countryside? Is it a huge compound where your friends and your family would have all the places to spend the night? Or maybe it's just a tiny home with just enough space for your tiny family. Just think about what that is for you.
Definitely not the tiny home.
Angela's like, I have meditated enough.
That's not even enough for me. Oh, do I start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will you
Set it
tell me
off.
about your dream home?
Yeah, well, dream homes, plural.
Yes.
But I would say primary. Okay, so my primary place of lodging, I actually like ranch style homes. It would be Spanish style architecture. I really want that Spanish style flooring. I'm in love with those floors now. And it's in LA right now. So a palm tree lined street is really important to me with a beautiful landscaped backyard area with drought resistant plants and foliage.
Well, you really planned that.
I know where
That was
that
the
list
point.
of non-negotiables.
That was the point of it. I really want that for you, Tanya. That's beautiful. You're gonna get it.
Yes,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that.
Well, for myself, I've always loved brownstones. Obviously, I'm from Brooklyn, and brownstones growing up in Brooklyn is like the be-all, end-all. So, and I love tall, tall ceilings, and that's part of the reason why I love a brownstone. So I would love to have one with 4 floors.
One for the closet.
Right, because I would love more space with a finished basement that could be like a rec room area. And I would love to have a pool in my backyard. Because I can't swim. Maybe I can learn how to swim.
Yeah,
I'm going to teach you how to swim. Let's do that.
But I think backyard space is really important too, just to have a space to, I'm very into entertaining also. Mm-hmm. So that's important to me. And I love original details. So when I talk about brownstones, I don't want like a super modern looking house. I love houses that have original details, that have just huge spaces, huge tall ceilings, like just really grand. So,
I see it, like the doors, the beautiful doors that just open up.
Yeah, French doors.
With
I
the
love French
original
doors.
trim.
Yes, and I love the windows that just like the wooden windows that you can open up.
that.
Oh, I love those windows.
Yeah, and chandeliers, of course. Brass chandeliers.
Brass.
Everywhere. Walk-in closet.
This question is so funny to me because I get so stuck on what city will it be in. But I think, I'm gonna remove that from the equation. I was in Japan over Christmas and New Year's, and the homes there are so they're so architectural, and I really fell in love with just like concrete as a building material, and I'm like, that's actually what I want. I want a house that is like mostly concrete. I want it to be very soft inside, but I want the house itself to be I want it to be a strong look. I want a bold look, sharp lines, like beautiful angles, light that is just like traverses through beautiful spaces. But I like a really peaceful inside. Like my bed is always white. My sheets are always white. That's what I want. And I want enough space for all of my people to be able to just come through. I'm just like, I love a second or a third bedroom. I want a space that I can work in, I want my office to be in I work from home most of the time. So that's what I'm really going after. I want it to be really peaceful. And I want a space for all my books to live. I have so many books. I'm like, I am ready for that. But I want my books to live somewhere. There's a house for me and my book children.
Your book babies. I think books are like great artwork too.
Yeah.
They are. I do. Because I definitely have bookshelves all over in my house.
Yeah. And I mean, and all of my books have a huge significance to me. Like if you're a book that I've read and I didn't love it, I probably pass it on to someone.
Right.
If you're, if it's
your book.
right. Like I'm like, this is that's all of the books in my house are books that I've read and I love. And so it has like such a significance for me. But I just, I'm like you, I want a pool.
Yeah,
but
that'd be nice. Since we're talking about dreams.
It's dreams. But I really want a place where like all of my friends' kids can just be like dropped off and have a good time. Yeah. I'm like, I want to be that house. Yeah. Where you're like, we have dinner, we hang out, we have breakfast, we just
right. Yeah,
just
you want people to come over.
That's the house I want.
House. Yeah.
That's what it's about. I too would love a home where it's like super huge. So if you like walk through the front door, I want the double staircase that leads to the top. I do. I like want the door to open and like my robe to blow in the breeze.
I think I'm gonna.
Yes. But I just really would love a place that's, like you said, big enough to host family and friends all the time. I entertain all the time. So, and then like the lower level where you can drop the kids and just let them live and not worry about things getting broken.
Video
but like,
game setup.
right. But like the room where it's all white and glass and beautiful. I want that. And kitchen to be open. I'm not a big cook every day, but when it comes to like big holidays and entertaining, I love to cook that way. So I would love a big open kitchen as well. And tall windows, lots of great details, like a brick wall. That's amazing.
I love Florida.
You're right. I want to be the Thanksgiving house.
Yes.
Thank you for, I know that.
Yeah.
That's on my list of non-negotiables
There
now.
you go.
Yep. We're building that list out. We're building. I think
Got it.
that's good. The meditation helps. Hopefully it helps someone else build their list of non-negotiables and what they really want in a living space.
Right. Well, we do want to hear what you came up with. So let us know your response to this week's money meditation just by posting on social media. Make sure you use that hashtag Live Colorful with 2 L's at the end of full. So that's Live color, and full with 2 L's at the end. Thanks for listening, and make sure you tune in to next week when we're going to get into the things that you should know before traveling.